What is up? I've got to laugh already. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. 0% on 2021 Escape continues on. Plus, there's delivery allowance, money off of all-wheel drive, all kinds of stuff like that. You can get at me in community. Norm with Mike or Billy Martin. Somebody's raging this morning.
And the hits just keep on coming.
You got to laugh to prevent yourself from crying. We're going to a game 7 after the Leafs dropped 2 straight overtime games to Les Rats. And the collective that is Leafs Nation, the converts, the OGs included, not too happy this morning. And with good reason, Mr. A or Mr. M.
Well,
Billy.
Needless to say, I really hope that Rexall and Shoppers Drug Mart have stocked up on nitroglycerin pills because
CVS
CVS in Toronto. I had never seen a CVS
in the States.
No. I'm talking about in Toronto. I'm talking about in the GTA. Yes, no. Sure. I said Rexall and Shoppers Drug Mart. That's where I got all my Luden's cough drops for my sore throat. But no, this is really a complete disaster. And this is the thing, and we'll talk about this later in the show. What happens if they do lose?
Yeah.
Because if they win, okay. I mean, if they win, there's still people are going to say, okay, it's still a disappointment. You were up 3-1 and you blew 2 games. Not because you were leading, but because you put incomplete efforts in both games. But you tied them and you got them to overtime, and then a bad giveaway in both games gives away the game, especially in Game 6 last night where they dominated. They
own that overtime. They
own the overtime. They were crashing the net. They were making Carey Price make good saves. I mean, him flashing the leather with the glove saves. I mean, he could see them all the way. Carey Price is going to make those saves 100 out of 100. So
so $10.5 million for Carey Price, future Hall of Famer, one of the best goaltenders of our generation. Mm-hmm. Never really got a true sniff of a Stanley Cup, save for a couple of conference finals. Still to this day, that is what Carey Price is about, playing in that big game, playing for his legacy, showing that he's got the most confidence on the ice. And, whether he loses or not, he knows that he's going to the Hall, and that the impressions of him are relatively cemented. So you could tell, even with the Leafs coming at him, with the full onslaught in that overtime period last night, that he was just confident. He could see everything. He was good to go. And you knew that one mistake the other way and the Habs were going to win. And that's indeed what happened.
I was just saying to somebody during the Leaf Talk show that I did on Twitter Spaces last night. So, I've been watching hockey since I was 8 years old, even before that. But that conscious memory of watching hockey back to when I was 8 years old. That's the mid 70s. So I've been watching hockey for over 40 years, and if I had $1 for every time a team dominated at one end and pressed for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 opportunities, and then the other team comes down and on the first shot or on the first opportunity they score, I'd be a friggin' millionaire. And that's what the Leafs outshot the Habs 13-2 in overtime. 13-2, and they had all the scoring chances. And Travis Dermott does a cutesy pie little curl at the half boards in the defensive zone and gives it up. And then, of course, it deflects off Bogosian's either skate or stick past Campbell, who had no chance. I mean, honestly, the only reason they got to overtime was Campbell. Campbell was fantastic yesterday. I can't blame him on the 2 goals. Maybe he drifted a little bit out on the first goal, but he was. I mean, Montreal came out in the first 10 minutes. I think they had 11, 12 shots, and the Leafs. Norm, I don't understand how this team, who talks such a good game, media availabilities before the game about we have to show up.
Yeah.
This is our game. We have to play our best game to beat this other team. In game 5 and in game 6, they come out weak or tentative or both. And in both games, giving away the puck constantly. They are lucky that they weren't down 2-0 in the first 10 minutes of the first period. It was only because of Campbell that it stayed scoreless.
Yeah. That team that clinched the Scotia North finished top 5 in the NHL 56 game regular season. Where's that team? Where is that team? Or was that team a success because it was the regular season and now the playoffs are here? Whether this group is connected to ghosts of the past, they all wear the blue and white, and whether you can date it back as far as you want in terms of playoff failure, the mantle is heavy on these guys' shoulders in knowing that this group has not yet been able to break the first round curse, and it's carrying the weight of many playoff failures before it. So, and then the fans, we all feel it. And now we're at the precipice. It's extremely frustrating. I want to make a couple of points. Mitch Marner, and you talked about the pregame hype and the discussion of how great this team can be and the positive attitudes, the airs of confidence that exude from the dressing room. Yet post game, Mitch Marner reveals again, we didn't come out ready to play. Why? What do you mean you didn't come out? You didn't come out ready to play?
See,
I'm confused.
Those are an extremely bad choice of words because nobody will forgive anybody to say, well, we came out in an elimination game. I mean, where we could eliminate the team and we just were not ready. I think he's basically saying in retrospect after the game, obviously we didn't come out ready because Montreal dominated the play. Our intention was we thought we were ready, but no.
Yeah.
Here's the quote. We need to be better in these situations. We're playing too much in our zone. When we got in their zone, we were doing a decent job of moving the puck around and getting to that, but too much energy was wasted in our own zone. We got to make sure we're better than that. Nothing we can do now. We got to make sure we're ready for game 7 and look forward to it. Okay, that's fine. That's wonderful. How about, and I was saying this last night, how about you equal your expressions with action?
Yeah.
It's like nobody cares right now. Nobody cares that Austin Matthews made $11.6 million and won the Rocket Richard. Nobody cares that Mitch Marner was a top 5 scorer in this league. Nobody. They expect you to perform. And if you don't perform, then you're going to reap the whirlwind. And that's the problem here. Is like, okay, that's why I was saying, if they lose this series, what's going to happen? And we'll have a lot of time to analyze that. But I'm just saying right now, somebody in the chat says, well, Dubas is going to be fired. I'm telling you right now, mark my words. I'm not going to put money on it because I don't make that much money. But here you go. Brendan Shanahan's not going to be fired. Kyle Dubas is not going to be fired. And Sheldon Keefe is not going to be fired. So if that's the case, and you have a mass exodus of the veterans that they brought in, with the exception of Jason Spezza because he showed up, the changes will probably be at some point to somebody in the core. But, right now, I didn't think that this team, in game 5, they did not play with desperation until they were down 3-0 in the second period.
They do that all the time,
Mike. Right. And that's it. And that's where the fans are saying, you're making $11.6 million or you're making $11 million. Why can't you show desperation? I don't know what it is. But they're down 3-0 and they start trying, and Hyman scores, and then Muzzin scores 2 goals in game 5, and they get to overtime, and then Galchenyuk makes the brain cramp play that cost them the game. And then in this game, they didn't start playing until 10 minutes left to go in regulation. I mean, and we can analyze this. I mean, do we think in retrospect that the Sheldon Keefe appeal of the goal was smart. Well, I can tell you what the thought process behind it was. He's thinking, okay, Montreal's power play hasn't scored the entire series, and this is a key goal, and it might be the only goal scored in the game. So maybe there's a chance they will overturn it because there was contact between Toffoli, or Toffoli was in the crease, and maybe there was contact with Campbell. And let's go, but it was exacerbated. They could have probably killed off the 5-on-4, but it was exacerbated by Marner throwing a moonshot into the Bell Center stands and making it a 5-on-3. If they don't score that goal, then the 2 goals that Toronto score win them the game. So, I mean,
OG's converts, we're letting it all out. This is an opportunity for us to exhaust the animosity, the negativity, and just empty the tank before Game 7. We're like the Leafs. We need to go into that elimination game with a clear head. Timberwolf, who is a longtime listener of the podcast and watcher of the Convo on YouTube, says this was never going to be an easy series. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Leafs in 6 because I thought it was going to be tough, because I thought that the Habs with their top 4D and Price were going to make it tough. And, you have guys like Gallagher, who I don't think anybody in Toronto would feel sorry if somebody decapitated him with a high stick. He's a very unlikable player, but you would kill to have a guy like that on your team. They were always going to be a tough out, but I think the Leafs have helped it along by not showing up when they've needed to show up. I don't know about killer. Saying lack of killer instinct is insulting to players. I don't want to go down that road because I don't believe it. I think Marner and Matthews and all the guys on the Leafs are trying. I just think that they're not producing. And
in the chat, Marner is the lightning rod. People want him traded. People want him demoted. Well,
people want him scratched for Game 7. That'll really accomplish a lot. Okay, they're going to put in Adam Brooks instead of Mitch Marner, and that's going to be a positive.
So why? I mean, he's done some weird stuff. He doesn't seem so. He is like a lot of the players right now. And Austin Matthews, again, he can do no wrong. He may not score a point the entire playoffs, and the animosity and then the angst will be directed at Mitch Marner, because it's either Mitch Marner or it's William Nylander. Nylander, he is the golden boy right now. No points last night, but he was all over the ice. He's the guy people are migrating their love of particular player to Nylander, and poor Mitch Marner is out on the street for now. The thing about it is Mitch represents most of the team, in that you can't say most of the team is truly invested in the series, truly engaged. Where is the fire? This is the effing playoffs. Where's the fire? And shouldn't you be motivated to finish this thing off and go through to the next round with a vengeance? It's just not starting on time, clawing back from deficits, and then, having all of that energy expended on the comeback, and then starting anew and starting fresh in a new process to try to, gut out the rest of the game it's not going to work. So where's the fire?
Well, and then that's at the heart of the Marner quandary, because Matthews, as opposed to earlier in his career when he was, more of a playing on the periphery, he's getting physical. He's going in the corners. He's hitting people. He's skating, at top speed and scoring chances. And he's just not, he's got 1 goal in the series. But you see the effort out there. You see the difference in terms of what gear Dr. Nylander is playing at, because he's playing. You can see definitely he's playing faster. There's more intensity. With Marner is like this generation's Matt Sundin. How many times did you have complaints about Matt Sundin, especially in the playoffs, Oh, he's not skating fast. Oh, he just, he's not putting in an effort. When he was putting an effort and he was skating fast, he was a bigger player, so his strides were bigger, so it didn't look like he was skating fast. And,
Marner made some nice defensive plays last night. Nobody gives a shit about that unless he's scoring and facilitating for Matthews. I mean, he was on the ice, blocked some shots. I mean, he stopped some plays. He did some dumbass shit.
I mean, two unforced errors in terms of penalties, flipping it into the crowd, especially last night. That one was inexcusable at that key point of the game. And and every Leaf fan just sees him looking to the sky and chewing on his mouth guard and saying, what?
3 games earlier, 3 Leafs in a row flip pucks into the stands.
So, I mean,
it depends on the situation. Where are we now? We're kind of we're getting close to the end. So things like that take on a completely different life, and add to the fact that you're gripping the stick too tight and you're not scoring any points. Man, you are a pariah.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I'm not going to go further into what if they lose, but I'm just saying for them to win, and we're sort of burying one of the big aspects of tomorrow night's game, is the fact that Jake Muzzin is likely not going to be available. Right now, I mean, you saw they showed the video a couple times last night. It wasn't a hit. It wasn't anything. He was skating. He was skating back for, I think it was an icing, and he pulled. It looked like he either pulled a groin or a stomach muscle, and he went to the bench, and he never came back. And
he said, "I'm done."
Yeah, and so I mean, it could be. I mean, if it's with groin injuries, sometimes it can be that you're dehydrated and once you rehydrate the muscle. But that situation, I mean, that could be a week or 2 weeks. And going into Game 7, okay, so what are you going to do now? You're probably, unfortunately,
Sundin and Dermott.
Well, no, unfortunately, your first option is, because now you have to pair somebody with Justin Hall, and you're probably going to pair Dermott with him, because Dermott and Hall played together, and they played together in the playoffs last year. They played together with the Marlies. There's a familiar.
Sandin will be back in the.
Well, that's the question, Norm, because Sandin cost them 2 goals, 5-on-5 in Game 5. Now, if
that's the coincidence.
I'm not going to say that MFer's name. But what I'm saying is, what they're potentially going to. Here's your balance. Do you play Ben Hutton in a Game 7 as a guy who plays 6-7 minutes? Yeah, like Lewis is saying in the chat, or do you play Sandin for the specific purpose of playing him on the power play and decrease the ice time of Riley, which he would be the guy on the top power play. So that means Sandin maybe gets 7-8 minutes, and you go with 5 defensemen. I think there's a better chance that they go with Sandin because they can use him in offensive zone draws and on the power play. But I think that there might be, because you're losing a physical defenseman in Muzzin, who's a left-hand shot, that there might be some tendency to go to, or might be a hesitancy to go to Sandin after giving away 2 goals on being responsible for 2 goals in Game 5.
But the guy who replaced him gave the puck away in Game 6.
Yeah,
it cost the Leafs the game.
Yes.
Look, it was bound to happen with Price being so steady. The Leafs not really having any major chances that they should have scored, save for a couple of passes Marner couldn't convert. They were bouncing over his stick and stuff like that. Yeah. You knew that when the Habs got one opportunity, they were going to capitalize on it. And it's poor Dermott, the guy who's supposed to come in and calm things down for Sandin, who was all over the place.
And after Muzzin got hurt, they primarily, they went with 5 defensemen, but the heavy rotation was on the 4 defensemen, and Dermott was the guy who didn't get the heavy rotation. And then why in overtime, because he's the one who gives away the puck. And that's to have I'm not, I like Travis Dermott. He's a good kid. I don't particularly think he's going to be on the Leafs next year because I think he's going to end up going to Seattle. But I think it was a right move to put him in Game 6 after what Sandin did in Game 5. But now you're in a situation where you're putting more weight on Brody, Sandin, and Hall without Muzzin, and adding an unknown factor, either Sandin coming back. I mean, Riley, Brody, and Hull, and maybe Bogosian. And I thought Bogosian played fine. So I mean,
yeah, he was fast. His passes were crisp. He gets it. So you see guys like him, Spezza. God love Joe Thornton. He's ancient. He's doing his best in limited work. But guys like Spezza and Bogosian and Brody, who scored a seeing eye goal. Went in off a skate, but that's how you score goals when you're a defenseman, right? And you're not you don't have offensive prowess and a big clapper. But these guys are going. You just need the rest of the team. You need an entire collective with fire, fervor, and determination. When you have that kind of talent, you add that next level of motivation and that want to win. Look, they should win Game 7. They should have won Game 6. They should have won Game 5 after coming back. They haven't. So here you go. Here's your opportunity. If they don't win, let's not deal with that effed up topic right now. Let's just go focus on Game 7 and the expectation that they're going to win it.
Well, Timberwolf from the chat is like, we have home ice advantage in a Game 7. Okay. Home ice advantage. They've given up the first goal in every game at home. Okay, they gave up the first goal in Game 1. They gave up the first goal in Game 2, and then they rallied to win. I think it was 5-1, and they gave up the first 3 goals in Game 5. So where is home ice advantage? Oh, there are no fans in the stands. There is no home ice advantage. And now I think if you look at Game 7 as a thumbnail sketch or in a microcosm. All the pressure's on Toronto. Montreal is playing with house money. Nobody expected them to be in Game 7. That does go a long way.
Good. The pressure's on this team. There are fans who think this team is holier than thou, and others who think that they're a bunch of wimps. Good. Live up to the pressure. Here you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Drop them into the rink. Blow the whistle. Let's go.
Now, Lewis says, do you think of Riley Nash coming back? No. I think I don't, unless there are injuries, unless like Foligno has back spasms again. And I thought he played okay yesterday. I mean, he wasn't, he had a fantastic chance on Price early and late in the first period that Price stopped. I think they'd love to have him out there more, but I think there's limitations in terms of his health right now. And they're getting what they can out of him. But I don't expect any changes to their lineup at forward unless there are injuries.
So this is our therapy session, not for only Mike and I, but for the OGs, converts, and the Leaf fan base at large. Will 85, why isn't nobody hitting Montreal's young players? Not to take them out, but to get them off their game. This goes back to the vigor and the vitriol and the sense of the moment. I still feel like the Leafs, they're not cavalier, but it's just this. It's a finesse, speed, play our game, and our game will overcome the other team's game. I think the Leafs aren't. This up to 67 or 76 Canadians. And even if they were, they would have had different elements to the game. Like, for as layered as this group is, I'm watching what's happening, and it does not seem like the Leafs have been able to put some distance between themselves and the Habs. The Habs are right there with them, and that's to be expected when you're in the playoffs. These are, I guess, the best of the best. But, I don't know what I don't see a Leafs team that looks better than its opponent. I mean, that's why we're in Game 7. To this point, we haven't resolved that question yet, and the Leafs haven't justified their first place finish during the regular season with success in the playoffs. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, and somebody was making a point in the chat. This is why the Leafs wanted to finish first in the North. Okay, yeah, if they finished second in the North, or if Winnipeg had finished fourth in the North, the series might be over with. And they, Winnipeg, nobody's looking forward to, nobody's looking past Game 7 to Winnipeg, but Winnipeg is going to be a tough match if the Leafs play them in the second round, and it's going to be even tougher because now, instead of putting away Montreal early and giving yourself a couple of days of rest, now you're going to go right into the second round series with rested Winnipeg with Connor Hellebuyck, who's a better goaltender than Carey Price, with no Muzzin, with probably no Tavares until the middle of the series. I mean, it's going to be a challenge for this team just to get out of the North Division, let alone get to the Cup final. But first things first, they have to empty the tank and worry about beating the Canadiens. They should not be in this situation, but this is where they find themselves, and they're going to have to, do things that they have not done in the first 6 games to win this series. And even if they do that, we don't know whether it'll be enough or not.
Marcus Maynor, no Norm. It is both of them. Matthews and Marner, no fire. Okay,
so crap. Well, honestly, look. Sorry, Norm. I want you to get your opinion on this. But after the game, I saw the highlights on. I was watching while I was doing the Leaf Talk show. I was watching like Sports Center, ESPN, and they showed the Leaf highlights for the first time in forever. And after the game, after Kotkaniemi scores the goal, Matthews basically throws his stick down, slams his hands on the bench. Don't tell me that they're not trying. Don't tell me that they're not. Yeah. What bull crap? They are trying. They're just not succeeding. And all Leaf fans care about are results.
So do you think they're playing? Do you think they're playing to a playoff level? Like, they're trying, but trying is fine, but I mean, you can only try so much before you either bow out or you excel. Are the Leafs at the optimum playoff level right now? As much as they're trying and they're pissed off when things don't go their way, are they really playing to the level they should be?
Well, I mean, that's tough to really answer, because if they were, they would have already beaten Montreal. I mean, people think that this team is significantly better than the Canadiens, and I agree with that, and that's why I picked the Leafs in 6. But
everybody's picked the Leafs.
But the proof is in the pudding. It's like, okay, if you're better, if you're trying your utmost, then you should be winning. But Montreal is getting good goaltending. They're feisty. Their effort is there. They're playing with desperation. I mean, I'm not questioning the level of effort that more than Morgan Riley and Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. What's this? Okay.
Sorry, keep going. I'm just laughing. Go ahead.
Okay.
Enzo, the commissioner, next year's a better chance at the Cup anyway. No Anderson clears up $5 million in cap space. Where's my white flag?
My God.
But this is what Hab fans were going through about 3 days ago, and now it's Leafs fans who are on the edge.
And this is low down on the list of concerns, but in a way, there is no winning this series for Toronto. If they win, they were supposed to win, and they gave up an opportunity to end the series early, and the plucky Habs forced a Game 7 against the highly favored Leafs. If they lose, it's disaster. And that, like I said, we'll talk about that after Game 7. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we won't have to talk about it. But if they do, I don't know where this franchise goes.
Yeah,
and it's up to Marner and I a lot of people were saying, why isn't William Nylander on the first power play? You know, after he was playing, he played great the first
He
time.
won.
They put him on the first power play, and for 2 power plays, they didn't get a shot on goal. In fact, the first power play in the first period last night, Montreal had more scoring chances than Toronto did.
So selfish. It's just this group of fans who are just concerned about the fate of one guy. He's doing really well, and he's holding this thing together. Just, you know, he's got more ice time, thankfully, but you know, his game is to score and be offensive. And in this moment where the top 2 guys aren't doing much, he's fulfilling his obligation and then some.
And who was the other guy in the penalty box when it was nothing for taking a penalty of going backwards into Carey Price without any?
Yeah,
I mean,
I know, Mike.
That was just as stupid a penalty as Marner's flipping it over the glass.
I know we're living in the moment, and again, not to go on Marner and Nylander, but remember it's yin and yang. When the world's against Nylander, Marner's the guy. When the world's against Marner, Nylander's the guy. For goodness sakes, I hope they both score tomorrow. We can just put this rivalry to rest for 2 seconds and then move on to the Jets. Milsbeck mom, I feel cursed, not trying to be facetious, as I feel like being a Leaf fan is a futile endeavor. I mean, she's not wrong, Mike. Yep. You know, during the summer when we don't have a lot to talk about, I think you and I should just do a show, whether anybody watches, just kind of going back on the you know, the history between you and I and how we became friends on social media and the talk show things we did and the 980 and that kind of stuff. But just going back like to 2010, like how many times did you come on my radio show on AM 980 and I just said, all right, Mike, the Leafs suck, speak, and you went on for 10 minutes, or on talk show we were just going around and round about how the Leafs just couldn't get it done. And you know, we would have to wade through the minutia of true failure from a team that was terrible and that had no business even being, you know, in the top 10 in the conference. Right. Now here we are, the team has made huge strides, yet we still feel like we're the downtrodden because we can't get to that next level. It seems like it's taking forever, and it has.
Yeah, and you know, this team has had obvious holes in their roster over this last stretch, over the now 5 years, with the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era. And you know, this is the thing. They showed it last night. They are now 0 for 7. 0 for 7 in games where they could eliminate the opposition.
Yep.
Game 7 in 2013, 2 games against the Bruins, 2 games against game 5 against Columbus, and now 2 games. And there's one other out there. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but it was 7. They're 0 for 7 in an opportunity to eliminate the opposition in the first round since 2004. Mm-hmm. That I mean, you can't make that up. I mean, it makes you question what is going on. And like I said, I mean, yeah, 17 playoff games for Marner in a row, 0 goals, but not 0 points. You know, so he is contributing in other ways. But yes, when you're face it, Mitch Marner is not a 50-goal scorer. He's a playmaker. Matthews is the scorer. Marner is the playmaker. Now you expect a guy who is 5th in the league in scoring this year, or 4th in the league. Marner or Matthews was 5th, to be able to score a goal.
Why doesn't Matthews have 5 or 6 goals in this series? If he's as good as Connor McDavid, like how many points did McDavid get against the Jets? I know the Oilers suck.
He had 3 or 4, but Sidney Crosby had 2 points in 6 games against the Islanders.
He's also rounding third on his career.
But big players,
it's hard. Yeah, I know.
So, but
yeah, Mike, real quick, brother. On the Leafs Convo YouTube channel community right now. Last time we begged for subscribes from you guys, you came through in spades. So we're gonna do it again. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. so you can get all the notifications regarding our content. And we have polls that go up, and I'm usually on the community chat yelling and screaming and ranting and raving. And you get all the notifications on that. A subscription doesn't cost you anything. It might actually earn you some gear or something like that. So just hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and you'll get all the notifications from community on the YouTube channel. Do you believe these Leafs are fit to win a Game 7? And this is where our heads are at, Mike. 25 votes, but we'll have hundreds. 72% say no. That's where our heads are at right now. And it's up to the Leafs to change our minds. It really is. Guys, drop the puck, go to work. You either win Game 7 and rewrite history, end this drought of failing miserably when the chips are fully on the line, or we continue this run of futility and we dissect the carcass and figure out, how this thing can eventually come to life.
Yeah, the next 48 hours for this team could really.
I had to put that up there.
Yeah, I refuse to look at that piece of crap in his name. The next 48 hours are, in terms of this organization and where they're going to go. If they win, then they move on, and then they have an opportunity to, advance in the playoffs and, maybe not fulfill the want of everybody that they saw when they added Thornton and Simmons and all the players that they added. But if they lose, I don't have all the answers, folks, in terms of what they will do if they do lose. But I do think that there'll probably have to be some sort of major upheaval in the organization with the roster, because in the end, the roster is at fault. They're not. I think they've been provided everything. I think they traded a first-round pick to add Nick Foligno. They added experience, and they still aren't winning or winning easy. So, and it could be anybody. It could be Marner. It could be Nylander. It could be Haley. I can only guarantee that there will be changes if they lose, but we only hope that they don't.
Yeah, there'll be changes if they win too, Mike. We know that.
Well, yeah.
Look, the team's layered. Obviously, you have your core group, you have your support guys, you have the veterans. I don't think you put this on the veterans. The veterans aren't. If the Leafs don't win either this series or ultimately in the playoffs, you're not going to go that effing Zach Bogosian screwed us. He's just there. He's there to support. Jason Spezza, he hasn't been a revelation. We know that this is Jason. This guy's like phenomenal. He's just phenomenal. Joe Thornton, stop hating on the guy. He's father time. He's there to chip in. He may score one of the biggest goals in the history of the organization here in the next few weeks. We don't know. Wayne Simmons, sure, I'd like to see something else from him, but again, these guys weren't brought in to grab this team by its tail and drag it along. Alex Kerfoot has 6 points. Nobody's talking about him. It's Nylander, right? Nylander, he's the poster child, right? Nobody's talking about Alex Kerfoot. He's got a ton of points in this series too. This will come down to can the big stars, the guys who make all the money and who are all the scorers and won all the awards, can those guys pull this team through? Can those guys pull this team through? And if they can't, we can't bitch at Dubas for not trying to build a core around the principal players, but it's up to the principal players to pull this team through. A few more minutes, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, one name that we really haven't mentioned much on the show, and I don't think he's been an issue at all, was Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell was fantastic yesterday.
He's doing what he has to do.
I think he kept the Leafs in the game, especially when they're down. Now obviously when they're down 2-0, they it was mostly play in the Montreal end, so he wasn't really tested that much. But when it was 0-0, it could have very easily been 2 or 3-0 Montreal. The way with the quality of their chances, and he stood up. Now even he said there were a couple shots that he wished he could have taken back or stopped in Game 5. But I think overall in the series, he has not been the issue. He's provided really good goaltending for the Leafs. So
yeah,
it's Campbell in Game 7, and there's no doubt.
Yeah.
But the defensive situation is going to be an issue, and like Montreal, and here's something that the Leafs need to do against Montreal. Look at the numbers in Game 6 of Weber, Petrie, Sherratt, Edmondson. I think 3 of the 4 were over 30, 33, 34 minutes. In Game 7, you've got to pound them. You've got to rub them into the boards. You've got to wear them down.
But who's gonna do that?
Well, I mean, that's what you need. Bigger forwards like Simmons and Engvall and Thornton. If they're not creating offense, and I'm not ripping on Engvall. I think Engvall had a great game yesterday. Mikheyev as well. They, whoever it is, you've got to physically tax them to wear them down. And if they wear them down, they will make mistakes. It's been 6 games of those guys basically, dominating in terms of minutes on the ice. And last night they played Brett Kulak, I think 8 minutes, and Eric Gustafsson 6 minutes. So these guys played ridiculous amounts, and they have to put the pressure on them to get them to cough up the puck.
Is Ducharme out coaching Keefe? I mean, I'm just asking.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. Before the series started, and as leading up to the playoffs, we were talking about how, the Leafs need to condition themselves, be ready, because things change. Things tighten up. The scores come down. Every play can be monumental depending on what follows. This series, I suppose, has lived up to the expectation. Lower scoring games, battling out of holes, trying to overcome, a tie game, knowing that, if you cough up the puck at the wrong time, it could cost you dearly. And we've seen all of that, Mike. We've seen all of that. So we are ranting and raving because our team hasn't moved through yet, and the top guys haven't been able to elevate their plays to playoff level to the degree that they're producing points. But the expectation, I guess, was that things would be harder for them to do exactly what they had been doing in the regular season. We're seeing guys like Kerfoot and Spezza and Nylander lead the way, at least to this point. It's just, and Campbell's been good. So we shouldn't be too surprised by what we are seeing in terms of playoff style hockey. I think we're surprised that the Leafs haven't put it away yet, and it's a big cause for concern for all of us. But there's one game to go, and maybe the story is just beginning to unfold in that this Leafs team is not perfect, and that a Game 7 win, if in the cards, propels the group on to success against the Jets, who kind of moved through pretty quick against the Oilers and are kind of twiddling their thumbs. And we've seen how teams with reckless abandon coming out of a long, protracted, drag them out series can, use that momentum going forward. Last point to you, and we'll get out of here.
Well, in a karmically cleansing argument, Game 5 was on the 28th anniversary of the Great Western Forum screw job. I mean, Kerry Fraser not calling the high stick on Gretzky on Gilmore. Game 6 was on the 28th anniversary of the Gretzky game, of Game 7. There is no anniversary for Game 7 on Monday. The Leafs haven't been in the playoffs on May the 31st ever. So maybe, since the gods are not laughing down at them for something that happened in the past, it will cleanse the karma and they will actually win. But as for what's going to happen in Game 7, I'm just going to sit back and watch because I don't know.
Benny B, being honest, Habs are terrible. Leafs should have won 4 straight. Either team will get destroyed in the second round. That's Benny, the spirit, Benny.
Yeah, Benny, I'm sorry, Benny. You know, the Habs are not terrible. The Leafs, I'm surprised you didn't say the Leafs should have won in 3 because that's how idiotic that take is. It's really, the Habs have Carey Price and they have a better defense than the Leafs. Now, offensively, the Leafs are better, but the Leafs are being suffocated by a physical Montreal lineup that's, and Philip Deneau is matching up against Matthews. I mean, it is easier for a defensive team to shut an offensive team down in the playoffs. It's up to the offensive team to overcome that, and that's what the Leafs have not done in the last 2 games. And whether they can or not, we'll see on Monday in Game 7.
OG's Converse below this post on YouTube. Let us know how you would alter this team's lineup in order to produce a win in Game 7. Don't, if it's Marner needs to be, put on a plane to the Bahamas, just don't write that. I'm looking for, concrete stuff that's legitimate. These guys, forget about next season. We're talking, what would you do to tweak this lineup to generate a victory in Game 7? Again, guys, we appreciate your participation in the project. Like and subscribe on the Leafs Convo YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, thank you very much for supporting the Leafs Convo. You might want to think about swinging over to the YouTube channel. We have a little bit more fun over there. These are fun times. Stressful, but fun. Nobody said it was going to be easy, Mike. We knew it was going to be tougher. The playoffs have lived up to the billing. The question is, can the Leafs live up to who they really are? Never mind the history. Never mind the crest. Never mind the jinx. Never mind the ghosts of series past. Can these Leafs, knowing how good they really are, can they live up to their abilities? They have 1 game left in this series to prove that they're good enough. And we shall see if that's indeed the case. Mr. A, enjoy the day, buddy.
Thanks, Norm.